Hello everybody, welcome back to the Railway. Today's when we're here on the layout, but I'm going to be doing something that you guys have been requesting for quite a while. It is of course a loco collection tour, so we're going to be starting off first with diesel locomotives, since this is probably what I've got more of, and the first one is going to come into shot right now. Here it is. So this is the Bachmann Windhoff MPV. It's a lovely little engine. I say engine, it's actually classed as a DMU or an FMU I believe, FMU being freight multiple unit. I believe that this is configured in the RHTT or railhead treatment train configuration. The model though is fantastic. It's got hundreds of separately fitted details, loads of printed details as well, and of course it's incredibly good runner. This is DC, it's not DCC, it's a 21 pin socket. I have got a DCC chip to put in it, but I haven't got round to chipping it yet. It is really straightforward. One of these just lifts up and underneath it is the DCC socket. So I might make a video doing that, but it'll be very short, so it'll probably be a short or something if I do. As I said, it's a fantastic, lovely runner. It's got lights in each of the ends of the vehicle, they're directional, and it's got a plethora of separately fitted details. It's a fantastic little model, but definitely not worth Bachmann's ludicrous RRP. Next loco then is another multiple unit, and again it's by Bachmann. It is, of course, the Bachmann Class 170. This is in Central Trains livery. It's a 3-car DMU, bought this pre-owned from Hatton's I believe. It's a fantastic little train. I did buy it initially with the intention of reliverying it to cross country. However, I do think that this livery does suit it. Although it is out of my time period, I do quite like it, and I think it is a nice engine. A couple of things to note about this though are of course the fact it does use bulbs as opposed to LEDs for its lighting, which means it has to be turned at almost maximum for you to see it. And then you end up with the unwanted side effect of the ends of the coach getting extremely hot. There's no interior lighting or conductive couplings on this, so you'll need 3 DCC decoders to chip a 3-car set, and for a 2-car set you'll need 2. You'll need 3 for this obviously because the motor is in the centre coach as opposed to in each of the driving trailers, which doesn't make an awful lot of sense, but it is what it is. It's a decent runner as well. It can't really crawl, however it does have plenty of power and it's nice. He says, and it's just stalled. So the next diesel is of course another Bachmann one, and it is a fantastic little engine. It's coming into shop now, and it is of course the Bachmann Class 08. This one's in the Freightliner G&W livery. It's a fantastic engine. Again, I've got a chip for this. I haven't managed to chip it yet because there's no actual space in the body for it. It's got the socket, but it just won't fit in the body. It is a fantastic engine. It runs incredibly well. It's very, very loud, but it does run nicely. See, it's doing a very good crawl there, as you can see. This is just on DC. So it is a fantastic little engine. It's very, very smooth. It does make a bit of a noise, but it is a fantastic engine, very powerful, loads of torque, as you can see there, turning its wheels no problem. So it's a fantastic little engine. Decoration's fantastic on it as well, and I really would recommend a Bachmann Class 08 to anyone who's in the market for an 08. Much better than Hornby's offering, in my opinion. The next couple of diesels are obviously from Bachmann again. I don't know why I'm saying obviously because it's not obvious. But yeah, they're 2 Class 37s as they're coming into shot now. I'm doing 2 here because it just saves time. So we've got a BR green one here and we've got a DRS one here. So the idea behind this is that this is owned by the Preservation Society and this is obviously owned by DRS. These two, as I said, are both Bachmann models. This one I believe is a limited edition for Canon Model Rail Centre. It cost me about 130 I think, so it was quite a good price. I bought it when it was discounted. Lovely engine, really well performing. This one here is an older model. This is again a Bachmann one, as I said, D6707, so it is an earlier one. This is one of the first models from the release. This one doesn't have any LEDs or anything in it, or lights for that matter. Just correct the aerial. But it is still a fantastic model. It runs, both of them run incredibly well, very smooth, very controllable, as you can see. That's the crawl. It's not doing very well in this bit because I've got them both. But yeah, fantastic engines. Really, really would recommend Bachmann Class 37, especially the older ones. They look much, much Well, actually, I say the newer ones look better, but the older ones perform much better comparatively. So yeah, I definitely recommend an older Bachmann Class 37 to anyone who is in the market for a budget Class 37. Sorry, especially since the Hornby Railroad ones are a bit crap. So yeah, we've got the two Bachmann Class 37s there, as you can see. Now on to the next loco. Right, so the next diesel loco is not from Bachmann, it is from Hornby, and it is this. So this is a Hornby's Railroad GWR HST. Now, you might think, oh, Railroad, it's going to be a bit crap. Actually, these are pretty good. They're not as good as the latest offerings, which I'm actually looking into getting one of those. But these are still a fantastic and viable option if you're after a GWR HST, or an HST for that matter at all, and you're on a budget. They come with one Mark III in the set, which is part of a train set, I believe. I don't use that Mark III. I used to use it, but I've got a whole wake of castle coaches now, so I don't need to. They are fantastic engines. They do look like an HST. My main gripe would be the front ends, because if you haven't seen the photos, I'll put a photo up on screen now. You'll notice that the lighting clusters are completely wrong. They don't look like the real GWR ones. So, what's wrong with it, basically? Well, you've only got lights in this front car here. These are based on a Lima HST, and I know on the Lima ones they had directional lights in each end. So it's actually a downgrade from the Lima model, but you only have white LEDs in one end, which both illuminate both directions. And as you may or may not have been able to see, the other main gripe with this is the motor. The motor's rubbish, absolutely terrible, and you've only got 4 wheels picking up, so effectively this is an 040. These wheels here picking up. Don't think you've got any on the rear bogie. So you've got 4 wheels picking up, which means the continuity of the track can be very temperamental, but you've also got traction tyres on it, which means that if you stop it quickly, it just derails itself. Didn't do it that time, but 9 times out of 10 it does, as it did before. So yeah, it's not great. It's not a bad HST, and especially if you upgrade it. I am considering doing a video upgrading one of these. I'm looking at the lighting kits you can get, and I'm also considering cannibalising the front end of a super detailed HST, as I've seen some people do, and it does look very good. I might not go ahead with the cannibalisation side of things, but I'm definitely looking at getting some lighting kits to upgrade this. As I said before though, I am also looking at the possibility of getting a super detailed set. I know of one going cheap, so again I might consider getting one of those. So yeah, it's not a great set, but if you're after an HST on a budget, it'll more than do, especially if you don't particularly care about all of the fine details. Again, there's nothing really that can't be rectified with a bit of skill and some paintbrushes, but for me it's alright. It's a bit naff, but it's not a bad engine in any way. So the next diesel isn't from Hornby or Bachmann, although I do believe it has been produced by the former. It is the Lima AEC railcar from the GWR. Now this was passed to me from a friend's collection. It's an alright model. It certainly captures the look and essence of an AEC railcar. My main gripes with this would of course be the insane level of noise that it produces, the fact it's not DCC ready, the lack of lights, and these windows here which don't look awfully realistic. However though, as with most Hornby Railroad things, and Lima as well, if you're on a budget, it's absolutely fantastic. I've touched up some bits in it with a paintbrush. I've added some light detail to these front light bulbs here, and I've given it a bit of a clean up. It's all in all, it's a pretty nice model. You can't go far wrong with one of these. They're very reliable. Obviously they're Lima, so they're fantastic, value for money as well. You can find them really cheap, and generally it's an alright piece of kit, especially if you're on a budget. It's a nice little engine. So yeah, the Lima AEC railcar. So the next engine is another Lima diesel, and it is one that I really love. It is their Class 20. This one is 20042 in Waterman Railways Black. I do believe this is a limited edition. You can't find these very easily on eBay. They are worth a fair bit. Again, this was passed from a friend's collection, and it is a lovely model. All in all, if you're after a Class 20 on a budget, in fact, even if you're not on a budget, the Lima Class 20 is a fantastic offering. Well, even if it's a Lima model, you know, unlike the AEC railcar and most of Lima's models, this uses a centrally mounted CAN motor. This ensures that it's perfect, smooth, almost silent operating. It is very fast, but it is fantastic operation. If I just try and do a crawl, as you can see, that's not bad for a Lima. It's very smooth as well at higher speeds, and it's almost silent. Ease of serviceability as well, you just pull the buffers out and lift the body off. Fantastic. This one, as I said, is part of the Lima collection, as they call it. This is a limited edition. The printing on this is fantastic. The detail on it's fantastic. Not as good as the Bachmann offerings, I have to say. However, as I said, if you're after a Class 20, these are a good option, a good choice. It's also got a die-cast chassis, so it makes it incredibly heavy and a good hauler even without traction tyres. I don't know what the Hornby Railroad offering is like, or whether it retains these features, such as the die-cast chassis and the centrally mounted motor. However, this is certainly not a bad model, the Lima version. They're also available quite cheap, I think about £60, maybe £50 is the going rate. So they're a fantastic option if you're after a Class 20, and generally you can't go wrong with them. My main gripe though would have to be the lack of DCC socket and LEDs or bulbs. However, as I said before, that's not a huge issue, and it doesn't take away from what is overall a fantastic model. Next up are some Hornby diesels. I'm going to bring all three of them into shot now. They are, of course, my fleet of Hornby Railroad shunters. So, I'm trying to get them positioned centrally for you. There you go. So, we've got a Hornby Class 06 in Virgin livery. I picked this up for £25 at a local model shop. Second hand, it's a nice runner. I wanted something cheap and cheerful in the Virgin livery because I think it's very nice and colourful. This looked quite nice, so I bought it. It's not too bad a model. I'll go into more detail in a minute. Next up, we've got Hornby Coca-Cola Bagnall Shunter. This was a freebie from Hornby when I was having some serious issues with one of their models. They very kindly sent this out, so thank you to Hornby. And this is my BR Green Bagnall Shunter. This was my second ever locomotive. My first loco was one of Hornby's Holden 101s, and then I bought this from the Model Centre, I believe. It's a nice little engine, very, very reliable, all three of these. You can't go far wrong with them, especially if you're after a cheap and cheerful shunter. Anyway, I'm going to go and tell you a little bit about this one then, the Hornby Class 06, and then I'll work my way down to tell you a bit about these. It's a nice little engine, some nice separately fitted details, especially these handrails along the side here. The horn's quite nice, as are these pillars here. As I said, it is a Hornby Railroad quality engine. It's not Hornby Railways quality. It would be nice if they did a version of that, but this isn't too bad if you're after a cheap Class 06. The looks, again, it looks alright, and yeah, the detail's decent as well. The printing quality's good. So my main gripes with this one would be the fact that the chassis doesn't look awfully realistic. Other than that, it's quite a nice little engine. It would be good if it had a DCC socket. It doesn't, but that's not a huge issue. Onto these two Bagnall shunters then. I'm going to quickly cover this one. It isn't an awfully realistic livery. I'm not a huge fan of the livery on it, but it doesn't look too bad. It certainly does look nice in the red, maybe not with the Coca-Cola branding though. The panels on this are nicely well defined. Those look quite good. There's no separately fitted details on this really, so it does look quite flat and plain. However, especially if you look at this one here, the lining in inverted commas, this one particularly with the lining, as it were, the grey highlight looks nice and smart. This one look good with the tempo printing of the number and the BR crest, very finely done. Yeah, they're not particularly bad models, but they're not the best either. In terms of performance though, they can be absolutely fantastic. All three of these are incredibly reliable. They're easy for servicing as well, you just clip the body off, it's done. And they are good at slow speed control. This one's almost silent. This one has the much faster and older Hornby chassis. This does also have, in fact all three of them have got die-cast chassis and running boards, sorry, so not chassis, die-cast running boards, I take it back there. It does have plastic chassis but die-cast running boards, so they are very, very heavy. But yeah, they're pretty nice little models. You can't go far wrong with one, especially if you're after a cheap and cheerful shunter. Wrong way. You can tell that Class 06 is the faster one of the three because it's just wheel slipping. Anyway, next loco. Next up is another Bachmann diesel. This one is DCC fitted and it is another multiple unit. So it's coming into shop now. It might take a minute or two to get in because of the inertia. And it is in the chip. It is, of course, the Bachmann Class 158 in GWR livery. This is a fantastic little unit and absolutely love it to bits. It's particularly good under DCC like it is at the moment, with very fine speed control. This is step 1 out of 128, as you can see, nice and smooth and slow. The detail on it is superb. The lighting functions are just exquisite, as you saw in my video that I did. If you haven't watched it, I'll put a link that corner. Oh no, it's up there somewhere on the top. There'll be a link to a running session I did with this. It's a fantastic little model. I would definitely recommend getting one of the new Bachmann 158s. Yeah, so maybe not quite worth the 300 odd pounds that Bachmann charge for it now. I bought this for about 210 or thereabouts, so it's a fantastic little unit for the price. You're effectively getting 2 locos, but as both of these have got motors in. You only need 1 chip. It does have conductive couplings, and it is fantastic. Some of the lighting functions on it are superb, and under DCC it's just a joy to operate. So definitely recommend it, the Bachmann Class 158. Next up then is another Bachmann DCC diesel. This one is their Class 25. This is a fantastic little model. I did a review of this a little while ago, so again I'll pop a link up in the top somewhere if you're interested in watching it. It is a gorgeous little model on its own right. The amount of printed detail, tempo printed detail, separately fitted detail is absolutely superb, but maybe the best thing about it is its incredible performance under both DC and DCC. This is step 1 out of 128, and as you can see it's very smooth, very slow. It's got a decent lighting package as well, not as good as the 158, it does just have directional lighting. However, this is turnable on and off. There you go. Don't know if it came across on camera, but I'm turning it on and off through the DCC handset I'm using. It is generally a fantastic model, and I do like it. It does look good in the rail blue. Again, this is part of my preserved fleet. Very powerful, loads of torque, very weighty. Definitely recommended to anyone who's in the market for a Class 25. Better than Hornby's older offerings, and better than Hilton's as well, I'd be willing to guess. So yeah, fantastic little model, the Bachmann Class 25. So the next diesel is not actually made by a proprietary manufacturer, and you might not even call it a diesel. It's currently stalled out of shot, so let me just give it a quick nudge. It doesn't really want to run today, but here it is. It is, of course, a Class 139. Doesn't look very much like a Class 139 at the moment. This is a Class 139 under construction. Being built by me, completely from scratch, using plastic card. It's also incredibly fragile, and as you can see, the body's quite loose on it. This is built around a K's chassis motor bogie kit thing, with a Bachmann DCC socket. Sorry, Bachmann DCC decoder on the top. There's not much to say about this really. It is a DCC based unit. It's quite a nice runner on DCC. On analog it's not a great runner, but yeah, so this is the Class 139 under construction. So the next diesel is another DCC one. This time it is made by Hornby. It is a DMU, and it is this. So this is the Hornby Class 153. This is in the East Midlands green, because that was the only livery they were doing when I wanted to buy one. I was looking out for a GWR one, but they didn't do one at the time, so I bought this one. Brand new from Hatton's at £79, I think it was. It's fitted with a Bachmann 8-pin decoder. As I said, I wanted a GWR one, and I did initially buy this with the view of converting it to a GWR one using Electra-Rail graphics, but that never came to be because I do quite like the livery. So the backstory I came up with is, this is just leased by GWR from East Midlands to cover for extra capacity on the routes at certain times. So yeah, it's quite a nice little unit. The performance is okay, I suppose. Detailing's quite nice. This has been fitted by me with some of Bachmann's NEM pocket based functioning BSI couplers, as are used on the Class 150s, the new ones, and the 158s. So with that I just pulled out the factory fitted BSI couplers and popped them into the NEM pockets on the bogies, and now it can couple up and work in multiple with my 158, which is quite a nice little touch. In terms of detailing on this, you've got some nice separately fitted underframe, plenty of rivets on the body side of course, and it's generally quite a nice runner. I think it runs on Hornby's railroad replacement motor bogie, so I think it's the same motor as used in my HST, but it performs significantly better considering this is tooled by Hornby in 2007, I believe, as opposed to being a Lima or something. It does use a plastic chassis, which is a bit naff, but generally speaking you can't notice it. It doesn't need to haul loads, it didn't need to haul anything other than itself, and it does that just fine. Performance, as I said, is alright, but yeah, so that is the Hornby Class 153. So the next model I'm going to show you then is another DCC one. This is another diesel. It is by Hornby this time, and it is the DB Class 60. So this is 6100 in the DB livery. It is DCC fitted, as I said, and generally this is a mediocre model. The level of detail's alright. It's very, very typical of what we could expect from Hornby back in the 2000s when this was tooled. It looks alright. The separately fitted details, it's got some gimmicky features like these opening doors, as seen on the other locos, like the 56 and the 50, and some of the early HSTs as well. Yeah, it's an alright model. Livery application's fine, the separately fitted details are superb. It's nice sprung buffers as well. Obviously it's got kinematic couplers which aren't very good, they keep getting stuck, as can be seen on this example here. They do tendency to get stuck and pull rolling stock off the track. So yeah, it's not great from that side of things, and also, I don't know if you heard when it came in, it squeals like that, and that slows it down for some reason. It's only in one direction, not in the other. It's always faster when it's not squealing. So I'm not sure what's happened. I've given oil on everything that I can think of, so if you have any suggestions, please pop them in the comments. I'd love to know. I contacted Hornby about it and they said, oh, there's nothing wrong with it, so I'm not sure. It happens both on DC and DCC. It is a nice little model though. This is speed step 1 out of 128, so you can see it crawls quite well and smooth, and generally it's not too bad. It's alright. This cost me about 140 quid from Bure Valley Models. Again, a model shop I would definitely recommend visiting. Link in the description. Shout out to Bure Valley Models. Absolutely superb little shop. It's based at the Bure Valley Railway in Norfolk, I believe. So if you're down that way, do go and check them out. They could really use your help right now. Not sponsored, but definitely worth a visit. Fantastic prices, fantastic models. Definitely go and check them out. I cannot recommend them highly enough, as you can tell. But yeah, powerful loco. Mechanism's a bit naff as well. There's no bearings or anything on the wheel set. It's got a 5-pole motor, which is good, and flywheels. But yeah, it's an alright, mediocre model. So I think that was my last diesel to show you today. I'm going to go on to Steam in a minute, but before I do that I just want to give you a couple of words about what other locos I've got on order diesel wise. So at the moment I've got 2 Class 50s on order with a Cura scale. I've got Rodney and Royal Oak on order with a Cura scale. They should be quite good. I did have a Hornby Class 50 but it was rubbish, absolutely dire, so I sold it and I put the money towards the Cura scale ones. I've got a Class 66, a Bachmann one, on order with Hattons in DB cargo livery, so that's really nice. It's pre-owned. I can't afford a brand new one. Well, I can afford it, I just can't justify spending that much money on a Bachmann Class 66. I've also got a Lima Western, but that doesn't work very well, so I didn't think it was worth showing you guys today since the chassis all snapped and stuff. So yeah, it's not worth showing you that, but yeah, so that was my diesel collection. We're going to go on now and have a look at some steamers, so let's go. So the next locomotive is a Hornby steamer. It is DCC fitted. This is the only one in my collection with a sound chip. It's running on a TTS J36 chip, so it is the wrong chip for it. It's the only one, as I said, running on a Hornby chip in my collection, the rest are Bachmann. But it's coming into shop now, so let's give it a whistle. There it comes. It is the Hornby D16. I haven't made too much content covering this. I'm going to turn the sound off because it's incredibly annoying. I haven't made too much content covering the D16, just because I haven't really. It's a nice enough little model. It's a Hornby one, as I said. It is fitted with a TTS J36 chip. It's the only one in my collection with sound. It's also the only one with a Hornby chip in them, because generally I find Hornby chips a bit naff. But yeah, it's a nice enough little engine. It's got some nice details. I love the die-cast boiler on it, and I quite like the separately fitted details around it. The printing's good on it as well. The lining's nicely done. Loads of separately fitted details. I like these whistles here, and safety valves as well. And these two bits here, I'm not too sure what those are, but they do look nice. Handrail's good as well, along with, on this side you can't really see it, but it has got a Westinghouse pump. That's nicely done as well. The lining on all the splashes and the running board is lovely. It's nicely legible plate here, and generally it's a nice little engine. Performance on DC is a bit naff, but that's because it's running a Hornby DCC chip. If it's running a Bachmann one, which is what I want to put into it, it would probably run alright like the rest of my Bachmann chip fitted locos. Which, in case you didn't realise, Bachmann chips, ESU chips, what's the other one, Zemo chips, most DCC chips will run on DC. Some of them change over automatically, some of them you need to set it up as a CV. I have done. This one, again, I've changed the CV so this can run on DC. Not a great runner, so I don't tend to, which is probably why you haven't seen it very much. So yeah, it's a nice little engine. It's not particularly powerful. It's a 3-pole motor in it, which could be better since the performance, even when it didn't have a chip in it, wasn't great on DC. But yeah, it's not a particularly bad loco. The chip on it's a bit naff. It's not a bad loco. It's not a particularly really fantastic loco, like some ones we're going to see later, but it is a gorgeous engine nonetheless. So, if I put the sound on, give us some whistles. Right, so we're back to straight DC control now, and the next two locos are not from Hornby or Bachmann. The latest two additions to my fleet. They are absolutely gorgeous engines, and here they are. So they are, of course, the Akira scale Manners. Now these videos, I did the reviews of them, gained quite a few views, which was nice, and people were asking to see a video of them working properly. I put a short out. I'm not going to do a full video because it's a waste of my time to do that. But they're fantastic little engines. I've got Earlstoke here and Torquay. I've got the Torquay with the intention of renumbering it and renaming it to Bradley Manor. I did order a Bradley, but my order got cancelled by Key Publishing. So yeah, that happened. It happened to quite a few people, I believe. But yeah, they're nice locos. I do have the intention of fitting these to DCC. I've got some DCC chips on order with Akira scale for them. I think they're ESU, so they are high quality. Yeah, I do like these two. The details on them is fantastic. I'm not going to get into too much detail here. You can watch my reviews of them in the top corner if you're interested. Yeah, ignore the performance section. I've got some replacements now, and they are fantastic. They can crawl well. They go nicely around corners. Yeah, they're decent. As I said, they're straight DC now. But as I said, I do intend to convert these to DCC at some point in the near future. So yeah, the two Manners by Akira scale, fantastic little models, definitely recommended if you're after a Manor. Yeah, there we go, the two Manners from Akira scale. So the next steamer is a Bachmann model. It is a Mogul, and it is this. So this is the Bachmann Ivet Class 4. This is in LMS black livery. It's quite a nice little engine, this. So this is a nice engine, as I said. It's a particularly good one. It's got a nice die-cast running plate, which is fantastic. It adds loads of weight to it. It's quite a powerful model. I would say that the torque's a bit dire, but if you oil it properly, it's not too bad. It can certainly haul a long enough train for my needs. It is a nice engine. It's got plenty of separately fitted details all down it. This is very, very nicely moulded as well. All down here, the whistles, safety valves, the dome, the double chimney looks very, very nice as well. It's got a nice tender. The one thing I would say is this doesn't have any pickups in it, or a DCC socket in there, which would be very, very welcome. It does have the coal load. I've taken the coal load out because it looks a bit more interesting without it in. Steps on the back of the tender look a bit coarse. It's got nice handrails all down it. Plenty of riveting on the tender sides. The printing is very nice, what little printing there is. It is quite a plain livery, I would say. But all in all, it's a nice engine. It's got a 3-pole motor, no bearings on the wheel set. It does have a die-cast chassis though, which is good. So it would be better if with a few modern tweaks and upgrades. But other than that, it's a very, very nice engine. As you can see, it's decent at crawling. And yeah, I'd recommend one of these Bachmann Ivet 4s if you're in the market for one. You can't go far wrong on them. Very, very nice engines. Next steamer then is another Bachmann steamer. It is another Bachmann Ivet as well. So here it comes into shot. It is the Bachmann Ivet 2. This is the tender version, not the tank engine version. But yeah, it's a lovely little engine this. It's very, very similar to the Ivet 4 in terms of features. This one is in the late BR black, lined. It looks fantastic with the lining. I think the Ivets do as well. I've seen them with the lining, the Ivet 4s that is. They are fantastic. This one does have the connections to the tender. I think the decoder socket's in the tender on this one, which is a much better feature, and I would advise Bachmann, if they're doing the Ivet 4 again, to put the decoder socket in the tender. Sorry. Yeah, it's got pickups on the locomotive, none on the tender. That is a bit of a lacking feature, but other than that, it's a really, really nice engine. Doesn't have a die-cast boiler, does have a die-cast chassis and running plate though. The valve gear looks very, very fine, very, very nice. As I say, very, very fine, very, very smooth to run as well. And the tender is more or less the same as the Ivet 4 tender. It is slightly smaller. It doesn't have the angled sides, etc, etc. So yeah, they're fantastic little engines. I believe that these haven't been made recently by Bachmann. I would say, sorry, if you're after an Ivet 2, then this is definitely the best option to go down. Don't bother with the old Hornby one. It doesn't look half as good as this. And to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Hornby versions from that time. This is a much, much better model, much more detailed, much finer, much smoother, definitely worth the money. So yeah, Bachmann Ivet 2. So the next one, continuing with the theme of moguls, is this. So it is the Bachmann N-Class. This is in the malachite green, as you can see, depicting number 1854 in Southern. It's a fantastic, fantastic engine. However, the thing I would say is it's not worth an awful lot of money, and I would say that because it's from the 1990s, late 1990s. Contrary to popular belief as well, it's not split chassis. This is a standard wiper pickup based loco. It's a lovely green. The colour and satin finish and the richness of the green, everything about it makes this look superb. It's one of the best iterations of malachite green I've ever seen. The thing I would say, as I said before, is the DCC socket. It isn't great, it is in the loco. In fact, this one doesn't have a DCC socket in because this is one of the early releases. So this doesn't have a DCC socket in, but later ones I believe it is in the loco, which can be a bit inconvenient. Some people have reported issues with the tender drawbar design. I'm not one of those. I know it can cause issues. It is a very, very weird design, I have to agree on that. It hasn't caused issues for me. It is a fantastic, fantastic engine. It hasn't caused issues for me, as I said. It's a fantastic runner, very, very smooth, very, very nice and slow, as you can see, very, very controllable. The lining on it looks fantastic as well, with this sort of yellowy orange. Does look superb. Loads of separately fitted details, however they can be quite coarse on this model and not as good as some of the more recent releases we've seen, such as, you know, the Ivet 4 or whatever. So yeah, fantastic little engine, I love it to bits. It's a good buy if you can find one for the right price, which is around £50. Next up is another steam locomotive, and this isn't from Hornby or Bachmann either. It is this, which is the Oxford Rail J27. This, to be honest, is an absolutely incredible locomotive. I cannot say how fantastic this is. It's incredible value for money, the quality's fantastic, you name it, it's got it. This, I think, is around £90, might be more like 100 now, but for an 060 tender engine, it's superb. This is one of my favourite locomotives in the collection, just because it's fantastic. You get a die-cast boiler, I do believe you get a die-cast chassis as well, and a die-cast running plate. It's got plenty of detail, including the separately fitted underframe detail. You've got your handrails, you've got your whistles, safety valve bonnet, everything. And it's also got a fantastic tender as well. And to top it off, performance is the best I've ever seen. Look at this, this is it crawling here. That is actually moving. It is actually moving, there you go. It is in LNER black, so it is quite a plain livery, but I do think it looks good in this minimalist sort of livery as well. So yeah, it is a fantastic engine. I definitely recommend getting one of these if you're into your northeastern locomotives, especially if you're after something small like this for use on a colliery or branch line or something. You can't go far wrong with them. They are incredible models, incredible value for money, and I highly recommend them. So yeah, the Oxford J27. So the next locomotive is one from Hornby, and to be honest, it's a bit of a naff model. It is this. This is the Hornby King class. Now, this is an alright model. As I said, it's a bit naff, although it is alright. As you can see, straight away the chimney's on the wonk. So that's one of the first problems. The second problem is the performance, which to be honest isn't great. This is its crawl. It's making an absolute racket, and it's not very smooth either. To top it off, it's got very, very low torque. If I put my fingers in front of it here and turn it up, as you can see, that's halfway right there, so very little torque. However, the detail on it is one of the best I've ever seen. It's got loads of separately fitted detail all down the side of the model. It's got plenty of rivets all down the side, as I said, and the tempo printing is fantastic. It's got sprung buffers in each of the corners. You can't really see that, but it does have sprung buffers. That's one of the best features, in my opinion. But no, it is fantastic. It's got nicely pricked out cab detail. I don't know if I've done a review on it. If I have, I'll put a link up there. If I haven't, then I won't. I do believe though Sam's Trains has, so if I haven't, I'll put a link to his review up there. But very, very similar. But one thing I would say about this that's not great, well, one of the main things is, of course, the colour, which is very, very washed out green. It doesn't look quite as good and rich as the Acura scale does. Even though this isn't Great Western, there are very, very similar colour scheme between the BR and GWR green. So yeah, the Hornby King class, a bit of a naff model, but nothing too bad. If you're after a King class, it'll certainly more than suffice, and I do believe that other examples of the class and the model do have better performing motors. So next up, I've got a tank engine from Bachmann, and it is rather nice. It is this. This is the Bachmann 57XX class pannier tank. It's a fantastic little model, and to be honest, you can't go too far wrong with these. Very, very simple inside, and so they're not worth the high RRP that Bachmann charge. This is one of the more recently released ones with the DCC socket inside. I do believe that it reuses a mainline tooling from the 57XX, and that does show through. I've done a review of this, fairly certain. It's up there in the top corner. If I haven't, then you'll have to go with that, but I'm fairly certain I have. So yeah, it's got a decent finish on it, sort of satiny, semi-gloss. It looks alright. It would be nice if they'd done the matte smoke box, as I know some of these members of the class have, but I'm not sure about 5775. It does have nice riveting all down the side, which looks rather nice. It does sort of highlight the detail on the rest of the model as well. And I say it highlights it, what it does highlight is how coarse it can be. Look at the size of some of these handrail holders there. They're not great, especially the ones on the top of the tank. But as I said, if you want to know a bit more about the detail, have a look at the review that's in the top corner. In terms of performance, it does have a 3-pole motor, and it's alright. It's very, very fast. However, it is controllable down to the low speeds. Very easy to service as well in terms of what's there. However, access to the model is extremely challenging. It's not a very well designed piece either, so if you're trying to service it, I would say get a professional to do it as opposed to doing it yourself. However, it is a fantastic little engine, and when it runs nicely, it does run very, very well indeed. So yeah, Bachmann 5775 or 57XX. Next up is another Bachmann tank engine, and it is this. This is the Bachmann 56XX. This is a fantastic little engine. You can't go too far wrong with these. However, this doesn't have great torque. So if you've got tight corners, I would advise against buying one of these. If you've got tight corners, I'd advise buying the mainline version. Now, as I said, mainline version, that's exactly the same body I have been told by a couple of people. However, a look on the Hatton's directory says they do have different toolings. So make of that what you will. But yeah, the mainline version of this is pretty good as well. It isn't as heavy. This does have a very, very heavy die-cast chassis inside it. The body is plastic, and as with the 57XX that I just showed, detail is very, very coarse. However, not as coarse as that. It does have nice separately fitted detail down the top of the tank, which looks quite fine, and it does have plenty of rivets down the side of the body as well. So yeah, all in all, it's a decent little engine. Performance isn't great, as you can see. It's nice and slow though. Performance isn't too bad. It is quite slow at the slow speeds, as you can see. However, torque, not great. This is 50% speed, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but it is struggling to turn its wheels. So yeah, torque's not great, speed's alright. So yeah, decent little engine. Next up, it's my favourite tank engine in the collection. It is this, the Hornby 42XX, with appropriate sound effects from my phone then. So yeah, this is in the Great Western livery, as you can see. It is a 4200 as opposed to a 5200. However, I do think this is fantastic. It does have a very, very plasticky construction. I do believe this is one of Hornby's design clever models. However, that doesn't show through in the performance. Just look at this crawl. There you go. It is crawling. Not particularly smooth, however, it is very much geared towards the low speeds. So as you can see, this is about 50 speed here on the controller. Very nice, slow and controllable. I have checked, it isn't a fault with the motor. I have seen other 5200s and 4200s which go this speed, and it is perfectly normal, as I am advised. It's a pretty nice little engine. I would say it's not worth the ludicrous RRP Hornby tend to charge for these models. I bought this for about £40 from a local shop, pre-owned. You can't go wrong. There's nothing really too easy to break on here. I genuinely love this little engine. Performance is fantastic, and that's what I love most. So yeah, the Hornby 42XX, a very nice engine, and definitely worth it if you're in the market for a Great Western tank engine. Next up, it's my favourite engine in the collection, and it is of course this. This is the Hornby Merchant Navy, and it's an absolutely gorgeous beast of an engine. To start it off then, I'm going to say fantastic job on the livery. It does look very nice. It does look good like the BR Green. Not as rich or as glossy as the Akira scale version, however I would say that this is a good, accurate representation. Plenty of detail on here, although it does have the air smooth sides, there is plenty of detail on the top as well. You can actually see detail at the bottom of the chimney. It does have separately fitted whistles and safety valves. Other way round, whistles, safety valves. The nameplates are etched, I believe, and those are separately fitted, as well as plenty of separately fitted detail on the tender. You do have nice separately painted lamps on the front. Those aren't working, however they do look very good indeed. To cap it off then, you have got fantastic performance. This is one of the best performing engines in the collection. As you can see, that is actually moving there. That is its crawl. Ludicrously good. It's a 5-pole motor with a huge flywheel, and that does show through in the performance. Very smooth, very torquey, and if I just quickly bring it out of shot, take it out of shot, and then I'll bring it up to 50 speed. So that's 50 speed on the controller, and then I'll stop it when it's in shot. 50 speed, stopped. And as you can see, it just glides through fantastically. So the Hornby Merchant Navy, an absolutely incredible locomotive, especially if you're in the market for a Southern Railway Pacific. You can't go wrong with these. So, I'm going to send this off. So here it goes, Hornby Merchant Navy. Next up, we've got an 060 tender engine from neither Hornby nor Bachmann, nor Lima. Not that Lima ever produced one. It's stalled out of shot, so let me just rectify that. It is, of course, the Dapol Dean goods. Now, I say Dapol, these were produced by Mainline initially. I've got the one once it was sold to Dapol. So yeah, it's a bit of very naff engine, to be honest. I don't use this. It doesn't perform very well. It's got a tender drive Ringfield motor, pick up through the loco wheels, which are very stiff, so it just sort of glides along without the wheels turning, which just looks a bit weird, a bit like that. So yeah, a bit weird with that. However, it's a nice little engine if you're after one of these on a budget. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of the tender drive units, so this isn't really to my taste. However, it is a decent option if you are after one of these on a budget. However, if you've got a little bit more money to spend, I would suggest that you go ahead and buy the Oxford version, because this is pretty tatty. It's got some cheap and nasty features. For example, it's got plastic tender wheels which are driven. You know, it's not a particularly good or finessed locomotive. The level of detail is very minimal, and to be honest, it doesn't do a great job at convincing me it's a real locomotive. It doesn't look great. They're not particularly bad locos, as I said. I think Hornby did one in their railroad range very early into the 2000s. So yeah, they are available from a wide variety of sources, these mainline tooled ones. I wouldn't recommend them. However, if you're after one, they're not too bad, I suppose. So yeah, Dapol Dean goods, which just stalled. Next up, we've got the Hornby Tack Brigade of overpriced railroad models. Yeah, I can't really fit them all in shot, so I'm going to take them out of shot again. Go through them. Hornby 2020 Year 1 Collector Club Loco. Bit naff, performs alright, but very little detail on it. Next one, Hornby Holden 101, JPGR livery. This was my first engine. This came in the Country Rambler train set, my first loco. Many issues with it, runs nicely now, quite slow. Little Giant engine, this was donated from a friend in their collection. This is quite an early one. A fair bit of damage to this one when I received it, but it does run quite nice now. It's yeah, very fast engine. And then on the two wagons we've got a Triangle Nelly. This does work. however I put it on a wagon because it runs at a completely different speed to the rest of them and can be quite temperamental. So we've got Trying Nelly, again donated from a friend's collection, that one. And a Hornby 2020 Collector Club loco. The motor on this has died, it basically loads of sparks, loads of smoke coming out of it. So yeah, that's on a trolley for obvious reasons, it is being repaired. So yes, that I believe is the collection. Timber Valley Productions here, post-recording thing. Thought I would just quickly mention, I forgot to mention in the video, that I've also got a full-fat Hornby Railways Mallard. This is a full-fat loco drive, recently tooled version. It's under repair, so I can't show it to you, but I've got it. That's the main thing. That said, there are a couple of locomotives which I haven't talked about because they are they've been stripped for spares, so I've got a couple which have been broken. There is a mainline Mogul that got stripped for spares. There is a Lima Western that's been stripped for spares, and there's a couple of other locos which I haven't mentioned because they are in pieces under restoration. I will briefly mention those though. Oh yes, and I've also broken Nelly for spares as well. Not this one, but I've got another one that I've broken up for spares. But yeah, so the locos which are in pieces under restoration are a Hornby tender drive Midland compound. Yeah, that's been under restoration for a little while. It is under restoration. It is happening. The other one is, parts of it are out of sight. Here it is, it's a Hornby Duchess, tender drive Duchess, under restoration as well, both restoration. I think that's everything, so thank you for watching. As always, if you have enjoyed, please don't forget to leave a like, comment down below, share and subscribe. Hopefully you found this interesting, as I said, and until next time, I'll see you again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.